if you're going to be making the argument of, you know, same building off of a predecessor, I'm going to make the argument of Ghost of Yotei. Um,
Wow.
Hello and welcome to another Dead Pixel. We're a podcast about video games, anime, entertainment, life, a little bit of everything in between. I'm your host, as always, Joe, and with me, the gentleman known all year round as Jolly Old Saint Nick, uh, and why he's on a watch list. Nick, how you doing, Nick?
Yeah, I really didn't think that you would be bold enough to bring that up on the podcast, but I guess I have to explain it now. So yeah, there was a really big misunderstanding. There was a very bad person who went by that term, and he and I unfortunately look extremely similar in a lot of ways. I'm handsomer, of course, but yeah. So FBI got a little bit mixed up, and they arrested me for a little bit, but they got it figured out. Let me go. Got the guy eventually, and he only he only killed a few more people after that, but they did get him, and they so he's uh he actually passed away in a firefight that they had with him. So, but that kind of got forgotten, and they just left that moniker, on some of my records. I've been working with some lawyers to get it expunged, but it's just taking a couple of years. So that's just how that all works. But yeah, I'm really disappointed in you, Joe, for bringing that up. That's kind of a private matter. I want to keep that off of the podcast. Didn't want to have to explain it. And but anyway, now that it is up, I'll talk about it again once it's all been said and done.
I'm just trying to get the Catholic priest to quit harassing you and trying to get you to join them because they misinterpreted it yet another different way. And I know that's not how you roll, but at the same time, they just won't let you go because, as you mentioned, you were the better looking jolly old Saint Nick. So yeah, good luck on that, and hopefully watch your back. Is what I'm saying. So all right, guys.
I'm not going to read
This
into that anymore. Then yeah, no, I'm not
You
going to.
weren't supposed to, but I mean, I guess if you do, you do. That's on you, man. Okay.
No, I'm not.
So this is Game of the Year discussions right now. We are finally talking about the main True Blue category, what we have played and what we consider Game of the Year for 2025. All right. And Nick, why don't you tell us what our nominees are?
Okay, yeah. So, Game of the Year 2025 nominees are, in alphabetical order: The Altars, Ball
That's a T.
Pit. Okay, I'll start again. The Altars, Ball Pit, Blueprints, Citizen Sleeper 2, Starward Vector, Claire Obscure, Expedition 33, Death Stranding 2, On the Beach, Dispatch, Ghost of Yotei, Hades 2, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. A lot of twos, a lot of twos, and a lot of sequels in this year's nominees.
You know what? That's not a bad thing.
Okay.
If it's a worthy sequel, you know, if we're looking at, The Godfather 2, Return of the Jedi, those are all sequels worth being mentioned. Um,
Yeah. So
yeah,
this is the part of the game of the year discussion where you really got to choose your children. It's a pretty tough one because all these games are pretty fantastic, pretty great, and definitely all hold a special place in our heart. I think pretty much, yeah, like every single one of these is pretty awesome. Do you want to throw one out first, or do you want me to?
I mean, I'll throw out Death Stranding 2 first. Sure, let's get rid of that shit.
Um, I think that
I'm going just straight for the juggler just to start a fight right off the bat.
I think it's good to go ahead and get that out of the way, but I think that it can't I don't think it. Well, I think it can, but I don't think it should go on the bottom of this list.
No,
Um,
I agree. Based off of our criteria and how we've played things and how we've experienced things this year. Now, for those who haven't seen anything else we've talked about for Game of the Year, once again, this is the games that we have played. Some things we may have not, in the case of Death Stranding 2, I have not played this, and that's partially because I hated Death Stranding 1. I played that one, hated it. Number 2, almost played it based off of Nick's glowing recommendation until it wasn't a glowing recommendation anymore and until he hated Kojima. And then I'm like, cool, I got to dodge a 50-hour bullet there. So now a game, some of these, like, well, we may have not played some of these games, but we need to no to completion. But we are also bringing these up because they're just that good and they're worth being on the list just to be recognized. Just because it's on the bottom of this list, most definitely doesn't mean it's a bad game. It's still the better, even if we played a handful of hours on one of these games, this it means it's better than maybe something else that we had completed through the year. So I'm gonna go straight for Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. Uh, it now I'm not gonna say it's the first first thing that should be cut. I think it is a thing that should be cut, and maybe we can fight for maybe what is the lowest on the totem pole in a little bit. But I'm just saying, for me personally, um, I did not. I enjoyed my time with it, and I respect the game for what it does. But I did not get the amount of hours into it to where I felt it got good. Um, for me, because it's like I see the mechanics, I see the gears working, and I can see it building up. Unfortunately, I did not get past like the 20-hour mark. I was more like in the 12 to 15-hour mark. And as I was climbing, I I can see where it's about to really click in and really get good. Uh, but I just couldn't. The way I look at it is like you have to put in at least 20 hours, maybe 30 hours for it to really start like cruising along. You've gotten through your own tutorial, your own honeymoon phase. You've now know the mechanics, and you can do good stuff to it. Uh, so that's how I feel about it, and that's but also because I respect all the things it does well. I think it does deserve to be at least mentioned on Game of the Year because it did so many things well and better than other games that I did complete. And in hindsight, maybe I wish maybe I spent more time on this than those other things. But hey, it's at this point in the game, it's too late. I can't change the past because if I could, I would uh, not be here. So I would be living a much posher life. So yeah,
you would have
so if
bought
I had that
Google stock in the year 2000.
yeah, it's just but yeah, that's kind of the concept is I think I just want to make sure that Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 for us gets a voice as as a nominee for Game of the Year. But unfortunately, I didn't play enough of it to really bat for it in this category.
Okay, so I am very similar in my thoughts on Kingdom Come, but I think that Ball Pit is the one I would like to put to put out to pasture first. The reason is because it is a small game and it is a simple game, um, and it's doing very 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 well by at least from my point of view by even being kind of mentioned in this list. It is not offensive really in any way. It's very pick up and play. It's it's clean. It's fun. It's simple. It's surprising in how good it is uh, compared to what you would think. It took me by surprise. That's for sure. It's a great value, a great price point. Got good music, and which probably could have mentioned it in music of the year, but um, it doesn't really stand out so much in that way. But still, it's a really fantastic game. And But it is not doing as much as many of these other games, and it's not the things that it's doing really well. is not going to compete to me with the other games that are really doing some amazing stuff here. So I think I'd like to put that at the bottom of the list, if that's okay with you.
All right. Yes, considering the fact that I actually did not have any hands-on time with Ball Pit, it came out so late in the year then, and it kind of, to my knowledge, for me personally, came out of nowhere. So, since I will defer to you on this, and if you feel that that's where it goes, and I support it.
I think this is a game that you should um, try to play in the coming year. It's not going to be hard for you. It is very easy to play, even just a couple hours. And if you play a couple hours and go, okay, I get it, and I'm kind of done, then that's fine. But it's definitely worth that. Now the difference between Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 and Death Stranding 2 um, is mostly up to the fact that I like you have not played that much of Kingdom Come. I played about 15 hours so far. I'm not sure how much more I will play. I would like to play a lot more, but there are realities. And this game, it's like I said in a previous cast, it's a game that I respect and admire much more than I like at this juncture. I can see that the systems in this game are profound and magnificent. Um, I think that the tutorialing and onboarding leaves a little bit to be desired. I might change my opinion if I played it for the full, 80 hours that it would be kind of required to actually have a chance at beating this game. Um, but but mostly kind of the reason why I want it to be at this point is just because we have not, we're recognizing it as a good game because we have touched it, we have seen a little bit of the light, but because we have not really put a good chunk of time in, that's why I would put it here. But I think that Death Stranding 2 could go here just about as easily. The gameplay in Death Stranding 2, the loop, the polish on the gameplay, the polish on the systems is really really great. That Kojima, the man really knows how to make a game, how to program a game, how to design a game, how to write a game, not so much. But he definitely does know kind of the nuts and bolts of game design. And so I think that having him on here, him having Death Stranding 2 on here is recognition of that enough. So, I'm okay either way. With Death Stranding 2 being
Oh,
in either spot.
I'm just gonna quick throw the caveat as you're talking about knows how to program and this and that and the other thing. I'm like, does he? Does he really? I think he's a good visionary as far as he knows what he wants to do. I've said it before, he's up his own butt, maybe a little too far because too many people have given him high praise, but he knows how to have the people do the thing he wants it to do.
So
I
that
don't
in
think
and of itself is, I mean, like, yeah, does he know how to code in
he's a good
CSS
director,
perfectly?
you know.
It's it's extremely hard to get different groups of people to perform at a high level like he pretty much always has. The guy knows how to direct a video game. We don't have a best director. I doubt that he would win that category, but he'd certainly be a lot higher, at least in my opinion, for best director. That's not the category. It goes into it for sure into game of the year, but yeah. So what do you want to do?
Let's see. I recognize the polish uh, that Death Stranding has. There's very few games right now that can do that level of fidelity, not just just all around that is put into Death Stranding. Um, for me, I look at it as I didn't play Death Stranding. and I'm not
But
wanting to.
but you played more. You
Eventually
did play more of
I
Kingdom Come.
and the thing is, at the end of the day, I would like to in a if in a time in a world where I have more time, I would love to come back to Kingdom Come. I want to put more hours into it. I want to see see more of it, and I think personally that's where I stand. Is like I want to experience that while I feel like despite the gameplay for all accounts being better than the previous Death Stranding game, um, the story being doing what it does, uh, and is like I feel like by flopping the end, uh, is like a waste of time and it spits in the face of those who are interested in the story, and that's the kind of person I would be. Um, no, yeah, so I think I'd have to go with Kingdom. Now, if it was just best gameplay or, like I would or polish for sure, but there's a lot I'd give to Death Stranding. The game I want to return to is Kingdom Come. That's kind of how I look at it. Now I also though because you went through the trials and tribulations of Death Stranding, if you really wanted to put it above Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, I
No,
wouldn't
it's
fight you on that.
it's
So
it's it's enough for it to be on this list. There's 10 games on this list. It's the ninth best game of the year for the Another Dead Pixel podcast. I think that is plenty enough, especially for all of the trauma and trials and tribulations that it has put me through. Um, so I have defended it despite having been triggered by it many times. So yeah,
uh,
I think that's enough.
yeah, that's. Oh man, I'm sorry you had to go through that, but at the same time,
I've carried this cross long enough to stick with your Catholic metaphor.
yep. All right. Then what are we crucifying next then?
Gosh. All right.
Oh.
I
Mind you,
have.
these are all game of the years. These are all times worth spending. So not despite us joking about it being a bad game or something like that, it's these are still
I feel
the
like
cream of the crop of
we
what
have
we
done
played.
a really good job compared to other podcasts like Giant Bomb, which a lot of this is modeled after. We've done a really good job of not mudslinging. A lot of those conversations, because there are more people and people are really fighting for certain games that nobody else played, there's a lot more mudslinging, and we've done a good job of kind of avoiding that. So, yeah, I just want to pat ourselves in the back for that real quick. Um, but going on, to me personally, the next game that should go on, that should be mentioned here is Hades 2, as opposed to Blueprints. I really like Hades 2 a lot. Um, I think it's a really fantastic game. I think it's a really good game. I think it does a lot to iterate on in a good way and improve on Hades 1. I actually kind of like the main character a little bit more, probably just because I spent more time with her. But I kind of found Zagreus to be a little bit smarmy. I think that they did a really good job of basically running it back on the same game and still making all the characters different, like same but different, and just as good and sometimes better. So, just really kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel, but not feel like scraping the bottom of the barrel, because I know that they had to be with all this Greek mythology. They're getting two full games out of it. Um, it's just a really great. It's a really great game from top to bottom, but it is it is more of Hades. And for all the good that is, it is just more of something that I had already played. I
Okay.
okay.
I forget now. Please remind me how much of Hades 1 did you play?
I think 7 8 hours.
Okay, so not a lot in the grand scheme of Hades. You made it through the final you actually made it to the end though of a run, right?
I did not make it to the final boss, in Hades 1.
Okay. Um, so all right, so the thing is, despite you reaching a Hades, it's not the end of the story,
Mhm.
and there's still a lot more story to go through. Um, so the way I look at it is, uh, it's while you can say it's more of Hades 1, and you wouldn't be necessarily wrong, but you're far from right. And because it's the way your character is played, um, the giving you more options, more gameplay to go to ascend or descend. The the combat is tuned differently. So it's like comparing a platinum game, a good platinum game versus like a DMC or something like that.
Mhm.
You know, like you're like, okay, they're the same. They're more of the same. It's just it's stylish, flashy action, right? And it's just like yes and no. Um,
But this is
there's
the
a
same
lot of
studio.
it is, but it's also still different enough. And that's the thing is so I'm saying you're not wrong by saying it is like it is similar, but you're playing uh the way you're playing your character is different enough. The Now I'm not comparing this to Blueprints. I'm just on its own merit, okay?
Mhm.
But I unfortunately did not have time to finish Hades 2.
Mhm.
So
But you did play a
it
little bit
could
of it,
be
right?
yes, and I'm just saying it could be a Death Stranding thing where maybe because it just doesn't stick the landing. And I'm like, dude, or if it just does enough of a tweak where it's like it rubs you the wrong way that maybe kind of like you were talking with uh previously with the writing for Claire Obscure for the best writing category, how it just for that category pushed you off. So there could be an argument to be made there where it's like it's maybe just not up to snuff. So I can't say that for sure. But what I did play, I found it to be very notable, and this is a game that I am having on my uh 26 list. Like I am, it's a game that I will be finishing next year because I enjoyed it that much. I just unfortunately don't have all the time in the world to complete everything I need to complete. Um, now
Is there a game that you would like to submit at this point?
like what yeah, and that's the thing is I'm looking at it, and if you're going to be making the argument of you know same building off of a predecessor, I'm going to make the argument of Ghost of Yote. um
Wow, I really am very. I'm surprised um at how Ghost of Yote has done overall in these Game of the Year deliberations. Um,
Now if I'm looking at this is the part where we're looking at the whole package, and so other things might have to come into play, like you know, more than just a story. Like so that's when we're gonna have to talk about like the altars or more of a complete package compared to like Citizen Sleeper or Claire Obscure. Claire Obscure as a whole package, I think, raises higher than a lot of others because it may not have won like in our categories best music or best writing, but it held its own really high. And when you're considering all the parts, it stands a better chance.
mhm. So,
Now,
so for this category, kind of the way of Game of the Year, the way that I do think about it is like, yeah, there's a package, but this is where capital G gameplay like has to shine, has to like come out, and that's just how I look at it.
and I found Hades to play better as in and I get in the zone easier and it runs more smooth to me than Ghost of Yote, where at times if you wandered into the wrong spot, you'd hit such a hard spike where like, well, I'm just done. Like I literally have to leave here and come back later. I'm obviously not supposed to be in this area, or as you've experienced, like, oh, I hit this boss, well, I can't. I just have to bounce, and I'll come back here after a bit. Uh, or certain bosses or certain enemies where like I've just beaten my head against this wall too hard. Eventually after upteen amount of times of trying, then yes. And after the games have been telling me, "Do you want to bump this or do you want to leave? Do you want to leave? Are you sure you want to be?" I'm like, um, I I feel that they weren't as consistent of a gameplay as Tsushima.
Mhm.
I feel like Tsushima, I like the breadth of weaponry and the variety, but I feel like it was a tighter package with Ghost of Tsushima. I feel that the stance dancing and being able to switch felt more fluid. And because Ghost of Yote was giving you things up until the very end, they're like, "Oh yeah, here, take this, take this rifle and stuff, take this pistol." I'm like, "Well, I don't, I barely have a chance to really get used to it." And I at this point in the game, it's not really part of my arsenal. Oh yeah, by the way, here's a bunch of other charms you can have too, because trick out your loadout. I'm like, well, at this point in the game, I'm just sticking with what I have because I just know it better. I mean, it's it kind of lost itself by giving you too much, and it lost its kind of direction. Now I mean, so I feel that Hades is a tighter package, and is a tighter gameplay. Um, I never I may die, I may have to reset a run here and there, but I honestly felt myself getting substantially better as it went as each run went on. And that's very much the similar that's a good sign of a good roguelike. Uh, you're not supposed to make it to the end, but you are supposed to hit a wall, but then you're also supposed to then be able to, get over that the next time around, or see yourself get better as you progress. Um, Yote, it wasn't so much getting better; it was me just getting more level up or more getting more extra stuff um, to then power my way through because it wasn't so much. It's like, oh yeah, well, let me just get some more hot springs, get some more health, get some more stamina, clear out the rest of this map. And much like Ghost of Tsushima, early on when you're just doing all the side quest stuff, you're like, okay, now I'm overpowered enough. Let me just plow through this.
So
It didn't
so
really
so
it's still bait.
that's funny because like my opinion is exactly the opposite. It's exactly switched. Um, like I feel like kind of Hades is sort of just a matter of time. You can play some runs better, or I can play some runs better, but like mostly I'm just kind of waiting to power up a little bit and then get the right drop and make a longer run, and sort of just rinse and repeat. It's a little bit inevitable. It felt that way to me. I played Ghost of Tsushima on hard mode all the way through, and then I played Ghost of Yote on hard mode all the way through. And the the thing that they improved massively from Tsushima to Yote is that hard mode was hard all the way through the game. So they had figured out how to balance that so that with Tsushima, you get about halfway through on hard mode, and as long as you're doing everything, you can just hot knife through butter the rest of the game. With Yote, I was doing basically everything that was coming at me. Not necessarily because I wanted to, but because I had to. Um, I even did some things maybe a little bit out of order and kind of just got stuck and go. I had to go a different way, and I was able to kind of figure it out. But but for me, I had to. There were several times in the game where I did get that screen that said, "Are you sure you want to keep going? Are you sure you want to continue? Why don't you quit?" Um, and there were times that
You're
I,
like, please, this is a boss battle. I need to finish this thing.
well,
you know?
yeah, but there comes a point when you've run your head up against this boss battle, upwards of 50 times, and personally, I'm just like, okay, am I really ever going to be able to beat this? And sometimes it's a matter of power up, but sometimes it's, most of the game, it's a matter of powering up. But when I got to Lord Saito, I had done everything that I could. I'd fought him and I'd lost, and then I'd gone out and done a little bit more, and then I was like, okay, I really have done literally everything that I know to do in this, like in this game. And so this is just it.
You didn't get that Takazo achievement, man. You
But
didn't do everything for him.
but that's even harder. That's even harder
You know,
than like
that's
Saito.
just me giving you trip. You know, that's fine.
So
So
so with Saito and the others, but mostly with Lord Saito, with him most of all, I had to just level up my pure skill. I had to learn what he did. I had to learn how to beat him, using this trick or that trick, and still just barely beat him, even on that last final run. And that's an experience that I won't ever forget in terms of gaming. Like it's so much, you know, harder and more, more of a thing, more memorable, to me than Hades is. But like it's
I'm the opposite on that one because I feel like I've had that experience with Souls like games in the past, where but I feel like other games did it better because I felt like it was more natural to read the tells. Even Monster Hunter uh had I felt had a better uh, tough boss loop soloing when you're like, okay, you can read certain things of the movements and you kind of start to do the pattern recognition. I thought that was more smooth opposed to some of the what I'm going to call cheap jank that like Saito would pull, being like, okay, um, based on what they want and their algorithm, I'm gonna shoot you not once but twice, and then not have the issue of reloading, and then, "Oh, you got too far again, I'm gonna shoot you again." It's just like there were certain things where, like, you just have to play it where it was, and for me, uh, based off of my loadout, because my loadout was all counter-based, which guaranteed you 3 consecutive hits after a counter
Mhm.
or a parry, that is, so it became quasi luck because because certain things were just instant reflex and you can kind of figure what's up, but it's also just a luck of the draw. You're like, okay, I'm going to assume they're going to do this. I'm going to roll into it. And I did not feel it was nowhere near as memorable of a fight compared to other games similar to it. And not saying Hades does that pattern recognition or anything like that better. I'm just saying I've felt more achievement from Monster Hunter Worlds soloing major monsters by myself than I had with taking out Takaso. And yes, you have to play. It's almost a given that you have to play Tsushima on hard because it's so darn easy. And that's the thing is everyone took away with early on was because you can get yourself so OP'd in the first area that by the time you make it to the second area, you're like, yeah, I'm just rolling through everyone. So you kind of have to bump it up. But once again, I don't think it was the good kind of difficult. I don't think the way that I don't feel like it was as memorable of a pattern recognition system and as a overcoming the mountain. For me, it was just a matter of uh, luck and timing. Kind of like how I beat, like it kind of came up with the fact that like I beat God of War, um, the Valkyrie, where it was a tough fight. Part of it was based off my loadout, and a lot of it was just eventually twitch reflexing and not necessarily a real achievement. It was just like, yeah, this I'm just going based off of instinct now. And like, oh yeah, I held my breath long enough and I did the thing. Or the moment I exhale, I'm like, oh man, this is really tough, but I made it really far this time, and then I just get murked. I'm like, okay, well, that seem I can't say it's unfair, but it's also I can't say it is fair.
so
It's
so
I felt it was not as fulfilling.
I didn't play Hades on hard. I don't know what the difficulties are on that. So that's sort of like where I'm at on a, I guess, like a weak point. But um, I think that because you didn't play Ghost of Yote on hard. You played it on medium, right?
I played that on normal. I
Yeah,
played
yeah.
it the way it was
Okay.
originally intended to be played, and I knew I wasn't gonna be able to spend the time I needed to
So,
because there was other games in the roster.
but
So I think
that's
I'm gonna
probably
say
why they feel like the same game to you, or they feel like the same sort of like, well, this is sort of you just sort of walk through this, and this one's
so
more memorable. But
that logic, all right. So I'm saying, as far as the complete package, you're coming away with it being, oh yes, the game felt more hard because I bumped it on hard, but the other game I didn't do. So therefore, the game I did play on hard and beat, while the other game I didn't, I feel more fulfilled by beating a hard game. I mean, that same logic
I
can
can
be like,
only
I played Call of
talk
Duty
about what I know,
on the
though.
hardest setting. Yeah, I know, but I'm saying, um, so I did play both Hades and Ghost of Yote on default. I played Tsushima on hard mode. But I'm not comparing. I'm not necessarily comparing Tsushima to Yote in this respect. I'm just saying, as a whole, Yote w- um, was not as fulfilling, and the difficulty of the main bosses were not the same kind of takeaway that you get from playing other games where you have a extremely hard difficulty. Even games like Fury, where it's like a boss challenge, or Jotun, it's just like where the goal is to like face a very hard boss and to overcome that.
Yeah,
I feel like Yote wasn't that kind of game. You had that experience. That's great. I'm happy for you. But at the same time, I'm saying that I feel like that is not the takeaway from Yote. Yote it's a fun overall package, and it's a good game. Um, but at the same time, I don't think I don't elevate it to as great of a game. I mean, as this is going to be difficult to say. So it's on par with Tsushima. Other certain parts, it is by far better, but other parts is maybe it is lacking. Um, but the things that Tsushima does better are a lot of presentation. Um, but as far as the actual gameplay goes, much like Last of Us Part Two, it does play overall better. But once again, there's a lot of key fighting mechanics that I feel that were weaker. Having if they didn't give you as much crap, like as much throwable items and as much secondary, like if they just honed, like made it a little not necessarily minimalist, but if they just kind of cut a little extra fat, because there is no reason for them to give you extra stuff at the very last segment of the map that you get. Um, they the fact that they did that made it feel like they were expecting more game and they just didn't. The fact that by the time I made it to the last part of the game, I was done. I was checked out well before I'm like, I know there's a whole part there, and I'm like, and I still experienced it, but I kind of got to the end begrudgingly. Like I want to finish the story, but I also want, and I would love to see the rest of it. But much like, and that's the problem with Tsushima. Tsushima had it, and like pacing of major big open world games have this problem. If it's done incorrectly, where it's just like, all right, uh, the story is dragged on long enough, and I just need to sprint. Like you need to sprint towards the end. You know that you did that with Claire. You know, so the fact that you feel like the ending to get to the ending is a slog, and you have to do this. Like I have to, that is an indicator that there's something missing. I can't say what per se. Each game is different and depends on the way you played it and But for me, that's how I felt of Yote. I think Yote is, as a whole, a weaker game than Hades.
okay. Um, all right. I think we can do it that way. We can have we can have Yote because I mean, in a lot of ways, Yote is an iteration the way that Hades is an iteration. I think that I like the package of Yote better. I was pretty content to spend over 50 something hours in Yote. It was hard to get past 20 hours, not because it was hard to play, but just because I was like, okay, I'm tired of this loop in Hades 2. But I think that there's a lot of great things that Hades 2 does. I think it has a lot more personality than Yote does. I think that some of the individual things are probably a bit more memorable, um, but you know, some of the individual kind of like set pieces or whatever. But but in terms of like, but on my own personal list, um, I would definitely put Yote higher. But we can
Okay,
have Hades be higher.
okay. Question: Does there anything? Is there anything that goes below either of these?
I think
That
that so I don't want anything to go below either of these. I think I I find Hades to be for a really good game, you know, in that context to be somewhat boring. Um that's just me. I really would prefer it to not go any further than
I'm fine
where it
with
is.
I'm fine with it not going any further. That's not a big deal. But also at the same time, do you have like do you have a lot of roguelike games under your belt? Like, are there a lot of games that you've played that fit that mold? Um,
Boring is boring. I mean,
no,
it's just
I'm
either interesting or it's not. And
no,
I've
that's the
played
thing.
I've
I'm
played
saying
several roguelike games. I played Rogue Legacy, I played Hades 1, I've played Blueprints, trying to think of some older ones. I have enough roguelike and roguelite experience. Bastion's
it,
kind of roguelike too, right?
no, no,
It's been a while. It's been 10 years. So,
yeah. No, it's but that's the thing is, when you're only comparing it to itself for the most part, yes, Blueprints is rogue light, but it's a very different game in the sense that it's what it's presenting to you and how it's presenting. I think Hades 2 is far from boring, but at the same time it's a game that I don't like a lot of roguelites. And especially with VR, PSVR especially, there's a ton. And
hmm, okay.
Hades is, 1 and 2 are the few games that and Rogue Legacy 1 and 2, like they are some of the few games that I will actually play on repetition. But the novelty of Rogue Legacy 1 in particular was so new to my wheelhouse that it was kind of great. But as far as Rogue Legacy 2, I barely put that much time into it. I just kind of bounced off of that one much quicker. And having played a bunch of other roguelikes, I realized the genre itself does not hold a lot for me. That's why I was legitimately asking. I'm not asking because, and for you, it's like boring's boring. Like, well, chances are you're probably like me, and roguelikes aren't your thing. And like, at least I will straight up admit that is not my thing. But despite that, I will still play the hell out of Hades 1 and 2 because of everything else that it offers. The charming characters, the excellent soundtrack, the art design, the actual physical gameplay, because I find the gameplay to be very tight. And uh yes, it sucks when you get a bad loadout, but I feel that even with a bad loadout, unlike other games like Rogue Legacy, actually, it's not as detrimental because I find that I can learn and adapt much better playing with a weapon or a set that I'm not used to. Um, and learning the in-game mechanics, the depth of the boons, because that's the other thing is they change some of this stuff that happens in Hades 2. It's quite a bit different where you're specking out your character, and that is they had a couple little extra mini game things, the farming into it and stuff like that, which is just enough to keep it interesting, but not deviate too much and not feeling it's a waste of time. It's uh and personally, I do like to learn. I want to build those relationships with those people, and I want to know more. The part that frustrates me is when I can't do that because it's a roguelike and I can't. I'm like, I just want to continue this person and I want to meet that person again, and I can't do it because it's the game just RNG'd me wrong.
I think that I think that Hades 2 is a really great game. I think that a lot of the ingenuity with the style, like Giant Bomb used to have that best style, category, and I think that Hades 2 definitely probably pretty dang near wins that category for compared to a lot of other games that I can think of for this year. I think that I just preferred the the difficulty of Yote, the way that I felt like I had to, like, it was in my control whether I won or lost. And the game was like, look, I've given you what you need. It's up to you whether you win or lose. With Hades 2, I don't feel like I have as much control. That's just me. That's just how, like, I just don't feel like I have as much control. And so that sort of nudges me out of it a little bit. But
All right.
but like that's the part of it that maybe makes me lose a little bit more focus. Besides that, you know, all the other stuff, it is a fantastic game. So it's fine for it to go a little bit higher on this list. That's just not what I
I just
value
have
as
a harder
much.
time accepting the fact that you're like, I made the game more difficult. So I like the way that the fact that I played the game was more difficult for me. And the argument of it gave me the like everything. Well, if that was the case, you never would have left. Um, you never would have left the one castle because you couldn't get past that hurdle. Or you wouldn't have left Saito in the first time you met him because you would have, the fact that you had to leave, the felt that you felt that you had to leave is a counterpoint to what you just said. Now, is Yote still a great game? Overall, like yes, I would, and so I argued with my barber about this because they hadn't given Yote a shot. Full stop. They're like they were expecting it. They're like, "Yeah, I really love Tsushima, but I really like," and for the dumbest reason, like, "Well, I wasn't really too interested in the fact that they were a girl character." I'm like, "It don't mean a thing." I'm like, it's like, did you like Kill Bill? Then you're gonna like this. I mean, it is just that. Like, it doesn't. The fact that you're playing as a woman doesn't make a darn difference. You're still an awesome murder machine, and she has she has vengeance on the mind, and I'm a all about a good revenge story. That concept really synchronized with me. So I was like, yeah. Uh, but at the same time, it's like playing it. Like I said, uh, playing it on the default setting, um, because that's the way it was. Now, that's the way it was originally intended. The fact that you have
The
to,
way
that's
God
the
intended.
Well, the,
Go
the
ahead.
fact is, the fact that you had to play it, you felt like you had to play Tsushima on hard mode because it became way too easy. That is also a knock against Ghost of Tsushima. Like, yes, it's great that you can up the difficulty, and yes, if Yote, you can crank it up to darn near one hit kill mode, right? Like one hit death, permadeath kind of thing.
That
Like
is
you can
pretty
do that.
wild, yeah.
Yes, and that's great for those who want it. But for the average person coming off the streets, and just picking up the game, uh, you have to have what the developers feel is a proper balance. And certain games will be like, no, 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 we have this hard because this is the way you are meant to play this.
Eh.
And I now, like I said, with the exception of accessibility in mind, because like I said, taking that out of the equation, um, I think it's just like I feel that there is uh, just as much learning curve, you know, to Hades as there was to Yote. The only problem is with Yote is once again the Yote. I actually broke Yote at a certain, and I had to stop playing it a certain way because the fact of I pulled out the charm. I got the charm where it lets you pull out the bow and tag three people at once. And so I'm running around forts, just pulling my bow all the way back, tagging three different fools, and just knocking them down, and still being in stealth mode completely.
So
Um,
I'll just say a final word about kind of the goodness of Yote. Like when you're fighting a boss, or when you're in one of the duels. And now the duels actually are still pretty cool with the lesser guys. but they're easier. I found them to be a lot easier than even like
Yeah, totally.
Tsushima, but that's because they're kind of more common and stuff like that. But like when you're fighting a boss, which is like a souped up duel, even um, there is a really great sense of satisfaction that I would get from, you know, fighting, learning a little bit, dying, coming back, getting a bit more, and then by the middle, you make a big stride, and then but by the end, you've got like this really great system, and it's almost like a dance, and just every single thing that the boss is doing, you're able to. It's just like counter, dodge, counter, counter, dodge, parry, dodge, counter, dodge, and it's like so fast that it feels fantastic to be like, man, I like 20 minutes ago, an hour ago, 2 hours ago, I felt like I would never be able to like do this. But like I've literally been able to watch my progress and it's not just like the game feeding me progress. It's like I have leveled up just like as a game player. And so to be able to do that and see that in real time in a game, it just gives it a little sense of realism to me, and that's really the thing that I really loved about Yote. And
Did you feel that way when you switched the armor and fought the Saito brothers? Because you had to switch to the bulletproof armor?
yeah, yeah,
Because
because because I had learned a lot with the Dragon and Spider Brothers. I had learned a lot from like playing them, and it was just like, okay, this is just like freaking hard, like insane. But then when I switched to the armor, I was like, oh, I was like playing this on like ultra hard mode. Now I just have to like do this and that, and that was probably one of the weaker boss fights, like honestly.
see, for me, so the flip side is you had no problem when you fought um the spider, the other Saito at the gravestone. But you had a hard time fighting the dragon. Um, so for me, though I was playing it on normal, I had no problem of going against dragon, but I had a ridiculously difficult time with playing with the spider, and so it was just and it's just just how it works. But as at the same thing, you're talking about feeling yourself progress. Well, that's great, and any that's a good sign of any game. I feel like Hades does the same thing, where the fact is like I'm not accustomed to playing this kind of game style. I'm not used to custom playing this type of weapon, and I usually wouldn't play this style. But because this is what you got, you are adapting to it, or maybe you're picking a weapon because you get a better boon or better stat. Like there's certain reasons to go outside your wheelhouse. And that's kind of how I ended up playing Yote, was because I'm like, okay, I got a new charm, I got a new thing. I'm going to specifically equip these charms and go for the leveling up of those charms. Like I don't use fire arrows. I don't use like the fire kunai, but I'm equipping the the charm that makes the kunai on fire. And then I'm like, well, if I'm doing that, I might as well min max, and then I'm going to use the thing that gives me extra kunai to throw out. And so it gave me I had to make my own fun because it gave me so many darn charms, and that's what I was doing to make it more enjoyable for myself. And yes, it was, and I was getting to try out different game styles, but the fact that I had to go out of my way to gamify the game already, I felt was a weaker point. And the fact is, I found, like I said, I found a broken build, what I thought was a broken build. And I'm like, dang, um, I have to stop playing this way because I feel like I'm robbing myself of a better time. And it's like, because especially when you're doing the different the kitsune forts, the hidden areas. So I'm like, well, I'm trying to take this place out stealthily. Well, here I am, like I said, just doing crazy bow shots, pegging, knocking people down to left and right. And then I'm like, okay, no, this is making it too simple, too easy. Not really a challenge, especially when they're like, oh, they see me, they're all charging at me. Well, let me just tag, 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 bam, you're down. Next row. And it's just like, okay. So yes, I was playing on normal, but the fact is that the fact is you can have these broken builds, and people make YouTube, series about making broken builds on the hardest difficulty, and which is I don't necessarily think it's a downfall. It's like it's nice that they do the flexibility, but at the same time, it's just like once again, if you have to gamify your own game within the game in order to make it, I'm like, that's why for me it doesn't hit as hard. But you and I get different takeaways because you didn't feel like you grew or you adapted well enough to the Hades game style. Well, I felt like, but you did with Yote. I felt the opposite. I felt like I did grow with Hades weapons and gameplay, and I felt like Yote was like, "Okay, I learned how you did it," but outside, at a certain point, I rarely switched my weapons, and I just stuck with my was it Odachi, the big heavy sword, uh, because unless if it was certain things like I'm gonna rip the shield off of these guys, but for the most part, I can get away with um, playing it in a certain way because I'm like I have an unblockable attack and I have a couple other things, and it just became pretty boring, and that's why I had to use the charms to make myself get more involved. Um, that was my takeaway from it.
Mhm.
We've talked a lot about this, the bottom mid tier. um, Now, once again, I think personally, I walked like when it comes to wanting to play it again, I'm most definitely going to be playing more Hades. I'm never going to touch Yote again, unless if it's like years from now when I'm like I want to play it. But generally, if I'm going to show someone something visually stunning, I'd probably end up showing them Tsushima again. Um, Now, I will recommend Yote to people. Don't get me wrong, I will recommend
Man,
Yote.
there's some stuff at the beginning of Yote that is pretty breathtaking. Like when you come out in on the horse and you're riding through like the grass fields, like that is pretty awesome just as a first like out of the
That is
gate. I
that's an
think the
homage.
rest of the game kind of comes down from there visually. I think there's not really that
Yes.
many other places where it's like because I was that kind of expecting to maybe see one or two other places that I came out and be like, "Holy crap, this is breathtakingly beautiful." Not so much, but
And
that alone was pretty nice.
and it's one of those things that, like I said, I feel my takeaway was the gameplay is better in Yote than it is in Tsushima. Tsushima just had enough there for me that I guess meshed with my likes. And so it's kind of a Last of Us 1 and Last of Us 2 thing, except for I don't hate Yote. I hate the story of Last of Us Part 2.
Mhm.
So there's a difference in that. I will still recommend people play Yote without a doubt, and there's no need to play Tsushima first. None of that stuff. It's like, no, you are by all means play Yote first. There's no reason to not.
Except for
So
the the sword of storms.
yeah, just the Jinsakai
Yeah,
tidbit at the end, which
that's
like without but the fact that that was my most memorable emotional moment was that from the entire game, and not I just by the time I killed Saito, I don't know, it's just his motivation, his drive, I just didn't connect with him as a antagonist. I'm like, he had all the means. You saw his army at the end. Like, why haven't you done more? You're wreaking havoc across the land, and it just feels like you spread yourself paper thin. Like there's, I don't, it felt there was just some, like I said, I was not as satisfied. Um, it was so much easier to hate the Mongols. It was,
yeah, I feel like those
Not having the characters. I do agree, having the personalities of the villains is way better in Yote, but I don't know, it's just the Mongols made it a unified threat.
yeah, you know, there's only for a lot of for both these games, you know, our opinions differ on kind of which ones do it better, which ones do it worse. But there is sort of a okay, you did the trick in the last game, and now we're kind of doing kind of more of that, and just which one we think that actually applies to is just a little bit different. But
But I will say that Hades doesn't belong to, or not having played, Citizen Sleeper, but everything you've said about it so far and what you will say about it, and also just and then other games on here, I think Hades doesn't go any higher without a doubt. I most definitely don't think Yote would go any higher either, and that's where I stay on that.
okay, Then we can leave it with Hades above Ghost of Yote. Um, so I guess I will throw one out, and that is Blueprints. Um, I think that Blueprints is a really unique game. It's a game that made me like it despite not wanting to like it, despite thinking that it probably wouldn't be very good. Um, and even starting out being kind of like, well, I'll give this thing an hour right before bed when it was already late. And I ended up staying up, way past what I intended to, like in the, and being like, dang, I got to go to bed now. But being like, okay, this is a good game. And, stuffing a bunch of hours into it pretty quickly. You know, um, I think it has limitations, but I think that it is a smart and unique and interesting uh, roguelike game.
I agree with you. And the fact that you are even letting it on the list, uh, I would never have expected that until so I was just happy you ended up playing it. So that's great. I am totally on board.
Yeah, I do think, kind of to, I don't want to let it get off scot free because where, I've sort of mentioned this in an earlier cast, so I'll keep it brief. But where I'm at with it is I can see the end and I'm just waiting for the roguelike bullshit to get out of my way so I can beat the freaking game. Um, and but besides that, if there was a way to kind of have a little bit more agency in those aspects, or maybe a couple extra things that, low hanging fruit to kind of go by as I sort of wait on these runs to pop up properly, then I'd be more inclined to want to go and finish it. I do really want to go and finish it, but I don't know how many more, half hours or full hours I have left. And some of these runs, when you get really close and then you get blocked by some RNG at the end, it's pretty demoralizing. But that being said, there's a lot of extra secrets and there's a lot of things that are in the game that I'm like, dang, I don't want to spend an extra 20, 30 hours trying to get some of these things I don't care all that much about. But it would be cool to see some of them. So maybe a thing for like YouTube or like to like watch a speed run or something like that. But yeah,
Oh,
really
yeah.
a good surprise game.
No, like I said, it's a totally a me type of game, and I never really expected you to play it. It held your attention. The only reason why I'm not saying, like based on that, like the rough RNG, but being not a combat game, that's why I tout Hades to be so good is because despite being RNG based, and despite it like I also just have really bad RNG. We've talked about it lots of times. Um, and despite playing using weapons and equipment for Hades, like that's why I like it so much because I still feel like I make progression and I'm learning the different weapons and like I become adequate with a lot of the stuff. And I still want to play it despite it being like, oh, this is maybe not the best loadout, but I can still see myself making very good progress. Now, blueprints, yes, like I said, it's part of me wishes it was just straight up just a normal puzzle game and without the roguelite stuff, like kind of like more like The Witness, where you have it all laid bare. It's a matter of perspective. Um, but at the same time, I don't maybe because it's the roguelite elements that it kind of forces you to follow a certain path more, and it provides it sounds weird. Because it's random, it makes it more linear. While The Witness is like, "Go explore this island, go look anywhere," and then you're staring at like the walls for far too long. But every now and then you're like, wow, I found it. And like that's how come super early on in the game, I'm like, I found the alternate ending. That's not really an ending, but it's just like a kind of Easter egg ending. And I'm like, that's cool. Really messed up when you're not expecting it. And you're like, you're super confused. But it's kind of worth it. And then you're finding out all these weird things. But at the same time, because it's not an open island kind of situation, by being roguelike, it makes it almost more linear. It's kind of weird to say.
Yeah. I think that we figured out a while ago that gambling is fun, and and as much as it is frustrating, that's part of the fun is how kind of frustrating it is, and that's kind of what Blueprints does. Maybe over a game like The Witness is because I never played The Witness, but the roguelite stuff that I that is really annoying when you do get that right run. You're like, oh yeah, I feel like I found something special. I think that's probably just kind of where that comes in. But yeah, very good game, and I think anybody should play it if they have any slight interest at all, or even if they don't in puzzles. I'm gonna go ahead and throw out one more, and that's Citizen Sleeper 2, Starward Vector. Um, so Citizen Sleeper 2 got its flowers, as many flowers as it's going to get in writing, um, and it got a significant amount in music as well. Um, and it's a really fantastic game. Also got quite a bit in best short game. Um, and yeah, so it's a really fantastic game. I think that it its claim to fame is the writing. Um, it's as unique a game as you can get for a sequel, but it there's not too many other games that I could really point to that would really be like it. There's some things that kind of look like it, maybe here or there, but nothing that I've played, which I haven't played or everything, but nothing that I've played that really has quite the same feel and sort of just uniqueness that's easy to play and fun for anybody that likes to read and likes a good story with a little bit of gameplay involved as well. Um, yeah, just a really it's a really fantastic game, and I think that it's fine to be called fourth best game of the year.
Yeah, I support that decision. I mean, unfortunately, I didn't get to play Citizen Sleeper 2, but you spoke enough high things about it. I see it being hard to convince me that it's better than what's left. But I am easily convinced that it is better. It deserves to be where it's placed. So yes, for sure.
All right. Honorable. Those are the honorable mentions. Now we're going into the runners-up section. So these are the last three games on the list for Game of the Year 2025. Um, so I guess I've been talking for a while about and throwing in games for a while. Um,
I don't know. I harped on Yote forever. So
yeah,
yeah,
is
that's the thing. And I hyped up Hades a lot. This last ones we just pretty much were in agreement, so it kind of made smooth sailing. All right, I'm just gonna say it. Between Claire, I'm gonna say Claire is the next one. Um, I yeah, I think it does. Obviously excellent game. Jeff Keighley, can't stop talking about it. No, it deserves all the accolades it got. Um, but at the end of the day, I didn't finish it. Um, I I have higher desires to finish or play other things on this list more than this. Not saying it wasn't good, not saying it was, but it's at the same time, it's like you convinced me more on Citizen Sleeper 2 than I have been convinced to finish Claire Obscure. The fact that you had to speed run, no, you didn't have to, but you felt that like you got to a point where like I am just going to beeline it to the end of the game. Um, and then the bit with the story at the end where you're like it you pulled it from the running of best writing. Um, there was enough about it where I'm like, okay, I see it being in the third spot.
okay.
How do you feel about that?
So the problems with Claire Obscure um, are not particularly numerous. I think that the writing took a bit of a tumble at the end. They're pretty that they don't pile too much on it in a weird way. At least that's sort of how it feels. I'm sure there's plenty of people who would disagree with me on that, but they don't pile too much on it. But still, and I think that's why it kind of is is not talked about more, um, and why it was able to kind of sneak into a lot of the top spots in Jeff Keighley's Game of the Year. But um, but to me, it just made me kind of furrow my brow at it. So I
I'm
think,
sorry. I want to say one thing real quick. All right. I didn't, despite me just crapping all over it, I think the gameplay, the actual combat system is amazing. I love that style of gameplay. And the other thing is, I'll give it kudos for the fact that you can break the hell out of this game. And despite me complaining a little bit about Yote, but in an RPG where it lets you like do broken stuff, I kind of really like that.
yeah, it
In
lets
the
it,
fact that
yeah,
yeah. So when you can do massive, crazy amounts of damage, or you can play the game, it gives you the ability to play the game solo. You know, like one hero destruction run, things like that. It lets you do some wild stuff, and so I at least want to give it kudos for that for sure. Despite me just having crapped all over it, so that's why I just didn't want to come out sounding harsher than it was. But I'm
no,
sorry.
no,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it kind of got to lay out some of the worser points of it before can really assess it. I think that so for my playthrough, I got pretty far into it. I got about halfway through it, and that's, I guess, somewhere in there is when I put it down to kind of play something else. But I was rather frustrated with it. I was frustrated with the combat. I was playing it on like normal. Yeah, I was playing it on normal, but I was playing it on quality mode, not performance mode. And so I was at whatever 30 or variable frames per second.
It's pretty solid 30. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so I was making my way through the game, but it was not pleasant. It was frustrating. Hitting the QTEs was becoming pretty untenable, pretty frustrating, and it just got kind of worse and worse and worse. And finally, I was like, what is going on? Why am I having such a hard time with this game? And then I go back to the settings. This is after picking the game back up again, going back to the settings, and I was like, oh, I need to turn on performance mode. And from that point on, it did get a lot better. It wasn't necessarily easy by any means, um, but I didn't have to totally grind and just, just overpower the enemies. I could actually play it like I felt like I had some skill. Um, I think that was a big. I think that was a big problem. I think, and it's probably something that I missed, and it probably has to do with something, the break, and I just didn't remember or whatever. But I feel like the game is a little bit unplayable on medium at 30 frames per second. Not totally unplayable, but like I wasn't really hitting any of the QTEs. Like I could overpower enemies, but then it's like you're just playing this like an old school JRPG. You're not getting the point of the game out of it. So to me, that was a problem, and I could have used the I could have used the developers making a judgment call, making an executive decision in that, and just saying this game is about QTEs. You need to be able to hit them. They are not easy to hit, and especially not at 30 frames per second. We are not putting this game out at 30 frames per second. We're running it at 60 because it can run at 60 on the PS5. Um, so, barring less than that, I think that a warning, which I could have been there, I don't remember, but a warning in the game saying, "Hey, if you're playing at 30, these QTEs are going to be really hard. So we really recommend you play performance mode." Um, Really, I prefer the former, where it's they just make it 60. Because when I did switch over, I could barely tell a difference in quality. I felt like I was like, this almost looks better in quality just from the frame rate being higher. So yeah, I so like that and the story kind of fumbling a little bit at the end are the biggest kind of, those two things, and possibly just some of the budget aspects of the assets in the game. Those things are probably the worst aspects of the game. The characters are pretty great. They're pretty beautifully imagined. They're different from each other. They're unique, which is saying the same thing, but sort of in a little bit. They're like different from each other, but they're also like in like personality, but they're also unique in terms of like how they play. There's not too many. There's great balance with the battle system. It's intricate. You can break it. You can kind of go beyond, but it lets you do all those things. It has really unique and cool side characters that say weird, dumb things, but also without being necessarily annoying. The the boss, like one of the bosses that kind of follows you around, is really great, played by Andy Serkis. He does a fantastic job. Some of the reveals are pretty nice. Um, and it's a different world. It's something different than you've seen before, and it's a really fantastic game. It's the music being what it is very beautiful. The value of this game. This game was $50. Is that is that right?
Yes.
Which is not really a big factor, but the fact that you could get such a great game with so many hours of gameplay and such great characters on that stuff for um, a pretty good price in this day and age, all things considered, and that if you were on Xbox, that you could, if you were on Xbox Game Pass, you could just play it for whatever you're already paying, um, and
The other thing is the fact that you could, it still sold gangbusters on Xbox.
yeah.
Like, that's the crazy part is you were still able to, like, a lot of people still just outright bought it to buy it, and it proved it proved a lot of things, um, it proved a lot of haters wrong, and it also proved that, hey, you can make a affordable game for for the consumer. It could be it could be so much more than meets the eye. It has it's the kind of game that has loads and loads of secrets, lots of hidden depth. Just you can make you can make an entire channel just to all the extras that are involved in this game, and it really is a passion project. And it was just you can see how much love went into it. Uh, it deserves all the acclaim it's gotten across the board, without a doubt. I just At the same time though, I I guess maybe because I just don't want to get too I want to play it, but at the same time, it's not the game. Not out of all the games here, it's not the games I would like most want to go back to, or the ones that, like some that like I would rather play other games first, mainly because it I don't think it would do justice for me to just kind of like mainline it. Um, and I don't think my personality, I like to explore every nook and cranny. I like to know things. I like to take my time, and I I think
See,
and for that it hits a lot of great things. It's like it checks all the boxes. Like, this is a game for you, you dummy. But at the same time, like, I don't have time for that kind of game.
yeah,
You know,
but sometimes that can be a little bit too daunting. It's like, this is a game for you. You should like it. It's like, oh, I don't know then if I'll actually like it. Um, but I think that I kind of did the game a bit of a disservice by mainlining it and really running through it, as fast as I did. And I took 30 something hours, 37 hours to beat it. And there's a ton of stuff that I didn't do. There's a whole there's a whole area that I started to go in, and there was a guy that was there. I was like, wait, if you're going this way, the enemies get really hard. So you probably don't want to go this way at this point. You actually want to go the other way. And I started to go into that area, and I was like, you know what? I don't really have time for this. I gotta, but I did kind of take a quick look around, just kind of see, okay, what's that? Okay, but and decided to go back on the main line way. And that's only one section. There's other sections that I saw and just kind of had to be like, okay, I gotta go. I can't really do that. There's a lot to the game, which is good. That is is really fantastic. They were able to give that much, in this much. Um, so yeah, would so I think that we also need to talk about. Um, I think we got to talk about dispatch. And the only the only problem that I have with dispatch is how much gameplay there is in it. So it is a video game. It is the worst thing you could say about it is that it's more of a movie or more of a TV show than a video game. Um, but it does have good gameplay. It doesn't have gameplay that I feel like can really purely stand on its own. I think it's good. I think it's fine. I think it fits in perfectly with what they're trying to do. But I do want I do want to bring that up.
I'm going to bring up the
hang,
altars as well
hang on a
on that
second.
same front. Yeah.
Okay, I think I know where this is going to land because um because Dispatch does so many things so well, and the way that it handles its TV aspects are to gamify it, to give choice, to give replayability, to give rewatchability. Um, I think that I just wanted it to be said that of the games here, it has the least amount of gameplay.
Um, yes, but I think the dispatching portion is actually more enjoyable than some of the farming or like resource gathering aspects and the base building aspects of the altars. I think the altars does not shine based off its quote unquote gameplay. I think the story is where it shines. I think the actual point to point gameplay is worse than dispatch because I would if honestly if you gave me dispatch as a mobile game and with the quality of like in dispatch writing because the quips they do and the banter they have, the listening to the phone calls of people freaking out because a kaiju is there or something, or a riot's happening. I that point was actually fun. The point that sucks most about dispatch and that front is their dice roll. That concept of
Mm.
their percentage meter and not having a realistic the way it's demonstrated I- is just really garbage. I would rather I'd rather see a D20 fall and me get angry that that dice is a digital dice and it's loaded. I'd rather yell at it that way because when you see this uh percentage chart and you're like, yeah, I have 65%, but for some reason the way it's angled, it just my puck bounces off and then it's like, and it's gonna
The
go in slow motion because it's on the cusp, but all of a sudden instead of gliding, it's just like slow stop. I'm like, wait, why did you even start to zoom in?
I
It
was
was
gonna say,
pointless to
yeah,
even
the puck is usually consistent, but it's not consistent because there are
it was
times where
so
the
not consistent,
momentum
yeah.
is like, okay, it should stop, but the momentum is just continuing to go like it's like in frictionless space on butter, and it's like, and then just enough to screw you over. There were plenty of times where I was the benefit, I got the benefit of that, but it just wasn't. So, yeah, there's aspects of that that are kind of irritating. Um, I think I think that we can safely put Claire in the third spot.
Okay.
And I think that
uh,
it's time to talk about the altars.
yes,
It's
we've talked dispatch enough, and Aldridge hasn't really had any time to shine. Though arguably, it coulda went into the
Yeah.
short game category. I think we just forgot about it at the time. Um, so
It might have gone into short game. I really should have put it into writing, and I really should have put it into music, just to at least uh, die somewhere in there. Um,
I don't remember the music. To be honest, the music didn't stick with me. The writing, and without a doubt, should have been in there. And it
there's a
should, short
there's
game.
enough music, but there's a particular song that's
Okay,
pretty great.
just have it nominated. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah,
Yeah, that's it's neither here nor there. But
posthumously
yeah,
added.
yeah, 'cause I added posthumously. I really dropped the ball on that. But um, yeah, so the altars. When I played this game, I didn't talk about it on the cast because I was kind of waiting for you to play it, and then kind of played some more things, and then kind of forgot about it. So it actually never got a kind of a normal talking about on the cast. So it's
Yeah,
a little
we only took our first impressions. We never actually did the final bit.
so it is a little bit of a dark. It's a lot bit. It's a gigantic dark horse candidate for game of the year. And I'm actually really I'll go ahead and wave the white flag. And that's because there's probably no other list on the planet of the Earth with more than one person who is going to put the altars in the top two spot. The altars is my number one game of the year. Um, it is, and I put my in all caps and bold because it is very much a me game. This is a game by 11-Bit Studios, which I really like quite a few of their games. Really loved Frostpunk, and
Hate Frostpunk 2 so much you didn't even touch it.
so much I didn't even touch it. And there's a longer story to that, but that's for a different day. The altars, um, yes, there is the altars is a game where you have to farm, but more or less, you mine minerals, you have to manage resources. It is a strategy game in a very sort of, but a very strange looking one. And it asks a lot of moral slash ethical questions, and it gives you choices as to what to do, and it lets those play out. It is a little bit of a telltale game, honestly, because it does give you percentages. I think at the end, if I'm remembering right, it does give you percentages of how many people have done which one or one other thing. Um, I think its characters are pretty fantastically written, especially
Character 1, singular.
the,
Technically.
so it there
Oh,
yeah.
sorry, you got your phone call. You got your phone call.
So yeah, that is, you have your phone calls, and those voice actors really do a fantastic job of bringing those characters to life despite just a picture and a voice. And the main actor who plays Jan, um, he does an amazing job. Just a if there was a voice actor category, I mean, I know that like what's her name got actor of the year for Claire Obscure. She was very good, but the guy that plays Jan in The Altars literally has to play the same person from so many different walks of life, so many backgrounds, and
So
has
like
to,
Matt Mercer.
yeah, I mean,
That's
yeah. Well, I mean, but how many characters does Matt Mercer actually play
No,
in one game?
I'm
Yeah.
just giving crap because you've mentioned before Matt Mercer being a little bit of a hard pill to swallow because you've seen him in so much other things. So no, but once yes, the actor who played Jan does a great job uh playing the different
So,
versions of
so,
himself.
so he does a fantastic job and all that. There's a lot of little extra things in this game that give it a little bit of uniqueness that lets you know that the developers really kind of tried. Like there's a song that I talked about. There's a few other little things here and there, and the gameplay loop of kind of I'll talk about this as one other thing, and then I'll get to the gameplay loop. So the premise of the game, not going to go through all that, but it is somewhat different than what I've seen. You're on a different kind of wheel, mobile ship on a environmentally hostile planet, and you have these ways of like moving things around inside of your ship, your environment in order to stay alive, and so it has you do a lot of things like that, which I found to be very unique and interesting and absorbing. The gameplay is where you have to mine stuff and you have to manage sort of these resources to get to the next thing and get to the next little area and to stay alive. And then you, because it's an alien planet, you find strange things that you have to kind of combat. And there's some sciencey stuff with like temporal problems and things like that. And for all those things, it's just fantastically unique. Um, and but the mining portions can be a little tedious. The the I could see how they could be tedious. The management aspects of these games is not for everybody. I don't love super hardcore management games, but I like a little bit of management and my strategy. And this game, like a lot of games that 11-bit makes, is pretty much perfectly in line for that, which is why I'm okay with it not being in the top spot because it is like a me game. And I recognize that, and that's why like I don't really like if we were at a big round table of like, nine or whatever, eight other people that we had to combat for game of the year, then I would do like Austin did that one year where he got I even forgot the name of the game, but Invisible Inc, where he got that into the top spot. Like that's where
Well,
this
he
game.
got it. No, he got it on the bottom of the list, but he was happy to get it on the list of top
Right.
10,
Yeah.
right?
I'm sorry. It's like on the bottom of the list. Yeah.
Yes.
Like, but
And I understand that. The thing is, all right, so I will say I agree with you. This game is pretty awesome. The story is pretty solid. Now, I wasn't going to throw shade early on because I already knew where you were going to go with this game. For the most part, I was pretty confident that this is the game you were pulling for. And for example, when you're throwing shade at Hades 2, I wasn't going to start slinging mud at this to make it too personal, but the same thing as you're talking about like certain things being boring or being like other things and that now as far as the management goes, it's yes, it's on a wheel, but all said and done, this is a Fallout Shelter game. This is Fallout Shelter has more nuance as far as building different facilities, putting them together, having to manage that.
the
So it's
phone
like
game.
yes, and that's the problem. Like that part is like you made it unique. Now, what makes it unique is trying to how you're unlike when you have a problem and you have to talk to someone, work it out, trying to make and there's that juggling aspect. I like that kind of strategy to a certain, like that's why I liked Dispatch, where it's just like for me, it was not just it was also the leveling up my characters, how I'm going to min max them, how I'm going to partner up my people, cover for their weaknesses, and then swear at the game because all my people are a little too OP in strength. And the next mission I have is if you
Uh,
have too high of a strength is instant fail. I'm like, I hate you so much. And
yeah,
then
that's some BS. Yeah.
so between that was far and few between, like literally like a half dozen times, total. But
Yeah.
uh, so this alters management stuff was fun, but and I'm being a little bit harsh on it by calling it Fallout Shelter, but it is similar. If I don't know if you ever played Fallout Shelter,
I played
but
a
it's
little
very
bit.
much yeah, and it's just like I played other games that did it. Arc Knight does a bad version of the Fallout Shelter bit where like a base building aspect, and so I feel like that is granted in Alters at least you can talk to your other versions of yourself, connect and make nice and all that. So which it really and next that's where it shines. The exploring the world, exploring the doing the mining and stuff like that. I did not give a flying f about that part. I wanted more story,
Mm.
and that's all I wanted. I
Yeah,
wanted to move to the next location to get more story,
and
and because if I want a good hardcore management game, or like if I really wanted that, I'd just play FTL. You know, I play FTL any day of the week. But the story, the writing, the characters, like that is the heart and soul of the altars. Um,
yeah,
yeah.
and then that is like a me thing. It's like the I like the management aspects of it. I like the kind of like upgrades and trying to, like, am I going to make it on this thing, strategizing all that stuff. And I recognize that's not what most people are into, and it totally makes sense. I think that with both of these games, Dispatch and The Altars, for me, and why they both belong in the top spot, which I really didn't think Dispatch would get this high. I didn't think that you would have liked it more than Yote, but I guess that's just how it ended up going. Okay, so what I wanted to say is that with Dispatch and the Altars, there was the least friction in wanting to play these games of any game this year. So like most of the time I like to play games, right? But every once in a while I'm sitting there and I can choose between watching something dumb on Netflix, HBO, Apple TV, YouTube, whatever, and playing a game. And for every single other one of these games, there's been like the slightest bit of like, man, kind of don't really want to play that right now. I need to play it, and I pick it up and I get going, and like I'm like, okay, yeah, this is good. I'm enjoying this, and it's just that bit of friction to start. But with Dispatch and the Altars, it was like I'm I'm like tapping the vein, putting a little bit of a fire under the spoon, just chomping at the bit to get these games played and get these games, not necessarily trying to get them done, but just like, I just want to go on these games. And that's like the purest, like, video game, like, thing to me.
They are satisfying.
Yeah.
They give you the right amount of gameplay to, well, for me, story reward, because at any given time I'm enjoying, for the majority of it I'm enjoying these things, and there's less grind. I mean, even though I just complained about the resource gathering, it's not
Yeah.
extensive, it's not ludicrously hard or tedious. It is just it almost works as a lull,
Mm.
just to give you more anticipation to build up to the next thing. And maybe that's why I found it frustrating, because I wanted to get to the next thing, and that's a testament to the quality of what I felt was the writing.
If you
So
don't love that, then it can get tedious.
yeah,
It can just get to be too much. So I definitely understand that. But Dispatch is um, it in a lot of ways, um, giving Dispatch kind of this honor is sort of um, like is in a lot of ways honoring the old Telltale games that could just never get out of their own way, and it's kind of an amazing comeback story because that studio died, and a lot of the people that
most unceremonious way at all. Yes, for sure. It brought other people down with it, in a very negative fashion. I think so. Let me say my piece with um, Dispatch and why I've pushed for it as high as I have. All right, so like I said, for me, looking at the game portion of Dispatch, I legitimately found that to be a oddly satisfying bit. Now, yes, it's frustrating because it's more or less dice rolls when you're not properly equipped, and uh, I would be pissed when I played dice anyways. If this was a legit pen and paper thing, I would still be angry because my dice would roll bad. So that's neither here nor there. But it's actually has its own satisfying, flushed out thing for me, anyways. And I like the being able to try to the risk reward, trying to plan out who's going to what, um, and trying to maximize my team or also waiting to the very last minute to get my other team members unlocked so then I can quickly hit the next mission. Now, the other part I don't like about this, I forgot to mention, and I did mention this when we first talked about the game itself a couple weeks back, was the menu system or the selecting your next mission sucks. I wish there was a better way to select between your people and the nodes on the map because sometimes when you go up to the node and you were like, okay, there's another node up high and one low, so I hit left and I want to go straight, but it ends up bringing me over, and then when I hit left again, it brings me to a far side, and I just want to go right there, and it just sometimes it gets janky, and if you miss a mission or if it times out or something because you just had weirdness based off of that. Extremely frustrating on a controller. Obviously, not a problem with a mouse. Like, 'cause I assume on the PC, you're just clicking what you want, and it's
Right.
not a freaking problem. If they just had it like numbered, like 1, 2, 3, 4, and then as things disappear, the numbers change, and I just had like a simple on like Final Fantasy X roster of like the missions in order. So therefore I can just go from the display and just highlight when I want and then like highlight number one, but that also highlights on the map this mission and I can see the timer. That's fine. That'd have been just dandy for me just to streamline it. But like I said, if that's all I really have to complain about is between selecting your missions occasionally being janky and the dice rolls being really irritating at times or like the puck system, um I find that to be, kind of a blessing. The writing, the story, the fact that I wanna go back into it, the fact that I wanna see the world. I fact that I've already seen the beginning portion, like, a handful of times already, and I'm happy to show it to other people. I'm happy to sit through it, and I keep on laughing at certain events,
Yeah.
or the fact that to see the other aspects and to unlock or to just to see how things have changed. If you if you have Sonar on your team, and you're in the bar fight, Sonar is doing a bump in the bathroom stall opposed to Coop who's like throwing up. It's just like it's the fun little quirks in between the we mentioned before with the music. Um, if you depending on how you act with Blonde Blazer, it'll the first time you meet Phenomena Man, it will either be a happy background music or a tense, like low key feeling, which it like makes you feel very unnerved,
Mhm.
and it's just like, yes, maybe by the time you're all done, if you examine, you'd be like, all right, this is like a David Cage game where in the end, majority of stuff really don't matter. Well, that's fine. But it provides me enough illusion that I think the magic is real, and it does a good enough job remembering and connecting that story. The music sets the right mood and also has me uh jamming to it at the same time.
Mhm.
I
You can carry it with you.
Yes, I generally think that in the end, this game is probably one of the most overall joyous experiences I've had all year.
I,
I have a good time playing this. I have repeated this game already, and I'm continuously having a good time, and I have no problems recommending it to anyone else. And because it's a shorter
so
experience.
so on
Yeah.
that point there, I don't know if this is an argument for or against the game, but it is a it is a game that can cross the gamer normie divide more than
Yeah.
any other game on this list. You could go up to somebody, preferably male, but somebody and say, "Hey, I got a game I think that you should play," and they could say, "No, I don't like video games," and you could say, "You'll like this one," and you'd be right because it's not too much of a game that's just going to destroy them, except maybe some of the hacking portions. But maybe there's like a difficulty thing you could turn down or something like that. I think
Okay, there is.
yeah,
You can increase the amount of attempts you do at hacking. You can make it
yeah.
have, like, unlimited attempts,
So
so
yeah, so for a game to be able to do that is pretty rare, pretty special. And I think that a lot of times the best games of the year, maybe not Baldur's Gate 3, maybe not like Elden Ring or something like that, that are just so hardcore gamey that it would be hard to kind of fathom a non-gamer playing those, but at least showing, but game of the year is always something that you could show to a non-gamer, and they would at least be like, "Wow, dang, that's pretty freaking cool," and Dispatch fits in that mold.
Yes. Oh, I also forget the actual worst part of that game. Now that you mentioned the hacking, is watching my friend play the hacking portions
Uh,
because that is absolute
that's it.
torture.
I've got to kick it down to the honorable mentions. Let's just put
No,
Citizen Sleeper at the top.
just bump my friend down instead because I'm sorry. They played that
Gosh,
game and
you.
eventually got to the point where like I told them I'm like I can't watch this because I am just you are driving me irate. Like how it's
Yeah.
I've never been so angry at my buddy, and they've actively chosen to screw me over in games before. They've shot me in the back of the head on purpose, which was rightfully
I
so because
understand
I've
the
done this.
sentiment. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, it's but when it comes to this, it's like I'm like, are you even trying? You know, like it's just like I know you're capable of doing it. So let's and this I feel like a teenager's parent, being like, I know you could do better. Why are you doing this just to anger me?
Yeah. Now you're doing this on purpose. Yeah.
Yeah, that's kinda how I felt about that. No, but once again, uh, there's very few games out there that I can actively just walk like, that have so much, I think, uh, joy in playing, the experience. Like and because it's so short, that actually makes it's for me, it's a boon because I don't have to go through a huge slog of re-experiencing that, and there are certain games that your comfort food games, right?
Mhm.
I think this is a very good comfort food game because it's almost like replaying, like rewatching an old episode of something, or you're watching your favorite movie. And with the time frame of like a 10-hour game, I'm like, this is totally doable. It's broken into chunks, so you don't necessarily have to play it in one fell swoop. And there's not a lot of quote unquote skill needed, so you don't have to like oh, I remember I just played the first 2 episodes. It's been a month. Let me continue playing it. Oh crap, I don't know how to play this game anymore. You're not suffering from that. So I think this is all around a really satisfying experience, and that's really hard to say about most games.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And not too much Matthew Mercer either. So
yeah. And Aaron Paul knocked it out of the park. I mean, it's just once again, I couldn't see Pinkman when I heard his voice, so I'm like, that's great. You
I
know,
I could see Jesse a couple times, every, couple times per episode, but he did a good job of not just going to that. It's just sometimes his voice just sort of sounds that way, but he did a fantastic job just as a regular actor, and brought a lot to everybody. Everybody in that cast just brings their freaking A game, and the writing is fantastic. It's a great game.
Yeah, and considering the fact that it's been in development theoretically, like and been on their drawing board for like 7 years, um, the the big question is whether or not they're going to do a sequel right away, or they're going to do a different Critical Role project.
I
Uh,
would honestly hope that they take as long as they need. Well, one, I hope that they do a follow up of some kind, spiritual successor, sequel, whatever. I hope they do some kind of follow up. I think it's open for one, depending on how you end. I think, but I hope that they take as much time as they need to you know keep the same quality.
I think it deserves a follow up, especially with the way the game ends. And even until the very end, they were saying like the different characters, they will remember this, and stuff like that. So it's like obviously leading to a sequel of some sort, and just to see how far we go, because at that point you're hitting very different branching paths. Maybe not necessarily. Maybe it's like okay, there's just depending on how you picked. This is the new bad guy. This is the new sidekick to the villain. This is the new love interest, and then they kind of fold it in. So it just makes it feel like it's going to be really big and really, but in reality, could just be uh slight character skin swaps, but the writing in it, it's proven itself already that just because you have one person as a villain and then you swap it out for another person, they can still play that role very differently. Who your love interest is, if you don't have a love interest, stuff like that. So I'm super excited about a sequel. I'm also excited about anything else they do, but I think I would rather see a sequel first and then them leave this to rest.
Mhm.
Give us a sequel, let it rest, do their own Critical Role side project afterwards. Then maybe after a while, give it some time to breathe, come back. Because I think hitting while the iron is hot would be a smart move. And then after enough time is faded, being like, yeah, people are like, now I'm in the mood for another one instead of just, that's, I think that might be my personal way. But hey, but right now we're looking at game of the year. Actually, no, I'll let you do. You've done all the rundowns for the entire thing, so go for it from
Okay.
bottom up.
So, Game of the Year 2025. Honorable mentions from the bottom to the top: Ball Pit, Death Stranding 2 on the Beach, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, Ghost of Yote, Hades 2, Blueprints, Citizen Sleeper 2, Starward Vector. The runners up: Claire Obscure Expedition 33, The Altars, and the game of the year for the Another Dead Pixel podcast for the year 2025, Dispatch.
All right. That was exciting. We had our differences,
It's
but I'm
it's
I'm
been
satisfied with overall how it ended.
3 years, almost 4 years of this podcast, and we have finally done an actual legitimate game of the year thingy.
All right, so I expect you to write a press docket and go on all the social medias that we have and make sure to let everyone know accordingly where they ranked for us, and maybe they'll send us a email back, right?
Yeah, yeah, maybe they'll send us an email back. I don't I doubt it, but that's fine. But yeah, so yeah, fantastic year of games. Really enjoyed pretty much all the games that I played, at least to some degree, and yeah, can't wait to run it back next year.
Yes. I mean, hey guys, if you made it to this point, we really appreciate it. It's been a long game of the year discussion, and if you happen to see the other videos we dropped, we appreciate that too. We hope you had a happy holiday, and yeah, because we recorded this one just a little bit early, but we'll be back in time for oh, not back in time. We'll be just after the New Year's is when we'll be doing our next recording. Um, Nick, tell everyone out there what your plan is for next year's ADP trophy for Game of the Year.
A golden toilet seat.
No, you're not doing a skibbity on me, dude. I would rather give that basketball of whatever garbage that is back there, because you're not using it. You just put it in a box, so just give them that basketball.
It's signed by
Uh,
Dirk Nowitzki.
Derpy, what? Okay,
I'm
and
gonna tell him you said that. He is a six
okay,
foot nine man.
by all means, happy to take that hit,
He will
and
find
happy to go to court.
he will
I'll take
find
it
you.
for the team.
You better have
All
life
right.
insurance. Anyway,
Well, guys, once again, this is ADP. Until next time, y'all take it easy.
bye.